if you could see all the book club kids are
Hey.
like close around you. We're gonna take a big group picture with you real quick, if that's okay.
Well, of course, absolutely.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Everybody make sure you can see me, okay? Make sure you can see me. Here we go. I'm gonna take a bunch of these. So here's one. Here we go. He's waving. Nice. Okay. There you go. Perfect. Okay. Here we go. Couple more. Okay.
Oh, it's great to see everybody.
Hi.
Happy Friday.
I will share that picture with you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So
It is my job to introduce our guest speaker today. Okay. He is Mr. Brad Haizlip, and he is a graduate of Munster High School. May I say the year?
yes, 85.
Okay, yes, class of 1985, all right. He attended Purdue University and he earned a degree in information technology and information systems. He also attended the American Academy of Art in Chicago, where he earned another degree in advertising and graphic design. And for the last 35 years, he's been working in the creative arts field. He currently lives in Florida, so he's in sunny Florida. I don't know if you can see our decorations, but we have a very tropical theme here at our party.
I like it.
So we're in that spirit here.
All right.
He works as a graphic designer. He's written and self-published 4 books, which I have on this card over here. 2 of them are on old-time comedians, and one is a book of poetry called The Moment in Time, and the other one is kind of an art book that encourages readers to consider what you can see in the sky with all the different cloud formations. And he also hosts a podcast called The Author's Table, where he interviews authors about their craft. So
yeah, I see.
I'd like to give it.
Go
Sorry?
ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'd like to give you a couple of minutes to talk about, your books and maybe the creative writing process.
Sure.
And then I'd like to give our club members the opportunity to sort of ask you questions too.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me today too.
Sure. Thank you.
Of course. Now, how many of you are writers now?
Show of hands.
So-
Those of you who like to write.
So, is anyone in the process of like writing a book? Okay, awesome. So, how far are you in your process? The one, yeah. Go ahead.
Anybody, how far are you in your process?
Okay. Well, that's okay. At least you're starting. That's the main thing. The hardest part is actually writing, and the whole process. Like when I first started, I was just little, and I would write poetry, and like when my family and I would go on trips and stuff, I would be in the back seat writing. And I still have that poetry, and it's actually some of them are in the book. But I think for myself it's been easier for me because I'm visual, and it just like with all my books, it's always been a process. When I look back at it, it was something that I was doing all along, but I didn't know it until I actually started putting the books together, and that's when I said, "Man, I've been doing this all along." But I think the poetry, there's no right or wrong in writing poetry. Same thing with art. There's no right or wrong. It's all an expression of how you feel. And there's so many different variations of poetry. I mean, I've always thought when I was writing it had to rhyme, but it doesn't. And I always thought that way, but what what actually I'll go back to when I was in college. The comedian quiz book, my first one. You know, growing up, how many of you watched the Three Stooges or know who they are? Okay, and the Marx Brothers too. Groucho, you know, with the mustache and glasses. Okay, well, like when I go to school and come home, they would be on TV. You know, and even like when I was little, it's comedians like Charlie Chaplin. I'm not sure if you guys know, but all those comedians were not funny men in front of the camera, but they were also businessmen, and they they had a very structured and you know how they did things, and but so that whole time I would always write notes or draw, and my excuse me my process would be I would keep everything in a folder, and 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 actually years went by before I did, you know, this book. You know, this book was published in 2018, so that tells you how long that was. Um, but again, the timing has to be right, and also the times were different than they are now. It's very easy to become a self-publisher. Back then, it was pretty much you had to get a publisher, and the money. I mean, it was very pricey. You know, it can be pricey now though, but that part of it you have to do your research and shop around and stuff. But I think for me, it was it was easy, but coming to my like the first book and starting it was a little challenging because I didn't know, and that's very critical that you have like an editor, especially if you're going to write a novel or short stories, and that you have to have someone that can edit it for you, and it's a very fun process. So, but so it's you have to take baby steps, you know, and don't look at the whole picture because it could be overwhelming. But it is a fun thing to do, and for the ones that are starting writing or they're in that process, I think keep it up, and I think that's very critical that you do. And I would like to maybe down the road that you guys can contact me or your parents so I can get you on the podcast, talk about your books. And so if you want a large audience, that'll be the way to do it.
I don't know if you can see their smiles, but there are lots of smiling faces when you said that.
That's awesome, and I think because I you know I was their age too at one time, so but you know I think if anyone that can have help and or assistance to do so, why not? You know, I mean we're all in the writing field or in the you know the graphic design, all that. We're all in the same field, and we're all working together to help each other. And that's one thing about my podcast is that I talk with authors all around the world, and they have all different topics, all different ages, and if you get a chance, and I'll give you that information so you can write it down. But it's good to watch them, and you can see them in their process of how they did it. And everybody has a different story and different backgrounds, but it's a wonderful thing to do. You know,
Thank you.
yeah.
Would you mind taking a few questions?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, any questions out there? Got a hand up, thank you.
How do you work through your writer's block?
I didn't hear. I'm
She
sorry.
said, how do you work through your writer's block? When you get writer's block?
Well, actually, you step back. You don't continue because if you force it, it's not going to be natural. It's not going to be easy, like flowing. You're going to force writing something down which it wasn't meant to happen. So sometimes you just have to step back. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question?
Do you have a routine that you use when you write?
Actually, when I was writing, I didn't have a routine. When I first started it, I would write down notes, and I would draw because and at that time I really didn't know how I was going to put it all together. And so and over the years I kept this folder of all my notes, drawings, thumbnail sketches, everything. And so I really didn't have a routine, but I knew when it was time to start writing. And then I pulled that folder out, and that's really when I got serious about it. Um, because when I was at college, I went to Purdue and I took a night class there, and the instructor asked me, well, what kind of book do you want to write about? And I knew it was a comedian quiz book, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted to approach it. And those times were so different than they are now. Because my book, actually, I had to actually contact people that had the licensing, the copyright law. So I learned a lot about that. And so when I was ready to start writing, I got that folder out and I really went to town on it. And it took me about 8 months, roughly, from start to finish. And I was really serious on it. I was really spending hours daily, after I get home from work, and I mean that's what I would do, and so I guess that was my process then, because I was really focused, and with the internet, it was easy to reach the people that were like family members or so on, that helped me get it done. So that was my process.
So it sounds like don't throw away your rough drafts.
Yeah.
Who else has a question? Thank you. Young lady in the front.
Yes.
How long does it usually take from like the start of a book to like publishing it?
Well, it actually varies, and that's a good question. It varies. There are people that I've talked to that wrote novels that took them years, and I guess it depends really on you. Like if you want to write a book like about yourself or stuff like that, it may be real easy. But yeah, it all varies. It's getting the right people to not just you as a writer, but also you want someone to edit it as well. Because just remember, when you finish your book, it's going to be out in the public, and so you want it to be perfect. You want it to be 100% correct and on about you. So whatever you do, just make sure that you take the time, look it over, everything's correct, your graphics, your grammar, everything. And I think too, if you want to be a self-publisher, make sure also that you do your homework on finding a good publisher. Now, there is a difference between being a self-publisher and a publisher. A publisher is who publishes your book, and a publisher will take a percentage of your book and make sure that you do the research, everything's in writing, because once you give your book to a publisher, they'll say, I want 50% of your book right off the top, and whatever you sell, they may want a percentage. So, but self-publishing, if you can find a printer, a book printer, and reasonable, that will print your book, and print on demand is very popular. For example, let's say you wanted one copy of your book, you can get one copy, and they'll give it to you, and then and it's all yours. So let's say you start a website, and so all the proceeds is yours. All the book signing events, everything is yours. So self-publishing is, for myself, that was a way to go for me, because you have complete control over that. So, there's pros and cons on both, but it's best to do your research first. But that was a good question.
Thank you.
Oh, of course, you're welcome.
Anybody else?
Did he answer your question already?
No.
He answered it by.
Oh, okay. He already answered it. Did you have a question?
Oh, no. What inspired you to write your poetry book?
That was I wrote when I was little. You know, I look back at the full circle of my books and my past, and it all makes sense because I wrote poetry when I was little, and even when I was older. Even the cloud books, the cloud book, we do that every day. We look up in the clouds and say, oh wow, that looks like, you know, a horse or whatever, and we always wanted to learn about what kind of cloud is that, what causes rain, what causes snow, you know, and so when I look back at it, there was a reason why I did these books because it was all part of my life, and I think we all have that connection too, especially with the cloud book, you know, and poetry, and that's what inspired me to write them. You know, I wanted to. Well, when I got older, when I did the first book, and then the rest followed, and it all made sense. Of, you know, what you're doing today, you'll know down the road. You know, we all have a gift, and sometimes not everybody knows their gift, even though they may be doing it all along. But it's nice once you find out what your gift is, you can tap into it, and then you can really excel. So, yeah.
I'd like to ask a question.
Of course.
Before I was a school librarian, I was an English teacher for a number of years. This is Kelly Holanek.
Oh, hi, Kelly.
Hi. And what I always noticed about teenage writers was that it was a big step for them to share their work with other people.
Yes.
Like reading it out loud or letting somebody else read. Do you have any tips for novice writers and how they can feel more confident just sharing out? Like, you know, first draft doesn't have to be perfect, and
Right.
do you have some other suggestions to, you know, encourage that writing process to keep going and not and for young people not to get so discouraged?
Sure. You know, some of the classes I took in, I think it was high school, was speech and debate, and DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of America, and also a speech class. You know, because you have to get in front of the class and talk. You know, that's just the very beginning of it. You know, and I think the it's almost like going onto your first interview. You know, the thing that's very fundamental is to have a mirror and then actually talk into the mirror, because you'll see directly your feedback when you're talking in the mirror. And it sounds crazy, but it works. You know, and I think too is, you know, it's like I said before, take baby steps. You know, get like if you've written something and you want to really, you know, express it, talk to other people, have like a little group of your friends, and just talk in front of them. Even if it's in front of like your family, even do the same thing. The more that you do that, the more comfortable you'll feel. You know, and as time goes on, as you start working and so on, it's going to become so much easier. But I think the very beginning is just take those little, you know, look in the mirror and talk, and that helps out a lot. So I hope that answered your question, Kelly.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question.
Sure.
Side of the room.
Okay, so some of us are going to be graduating or like going to college and taking jobs. What advice would you offer us when we embark on our next chapter?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what she said, Kelly.
She said she's from high school.
Okay.
And she said that some of them are going to be going off to college next year, next fall, or going into the workforce.
Yes.
And what advice would you have for kind of maintaining that creative spirit, you know, and holding on to it? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think it's great to stay around positive people, creative people, people that will not necessarily think the same way as you, but also encourage you to pursue what you want to do. And the biggest thing is to believe in yourself. Because if you believe in yourself, you can do anything. And because you will run across obstacles, not just in the workforce but with people in general that will have different ideas and goals. But the creative process is, if you're writing now, or if you're drawing now, if you're doing any of that kind of stuff now, continue it. Never give up, because there's a reason why you're doing it now. Down the road, that's why I stayed in the field that I'm in. I've always been a visual person, so the creative process and advertising and graphic design. I started back when, I don't know if you remember this, Kelly, but desktop publishing was a big thing. And it's and working on with the printing presses and the flow of how things are created. So and I think that it depends on what the field you're going into, but I think on your own you can do a lot of that too, just keeping it fresh and just keeping it, not dry. Just go out there and just do what you need to do.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Do you have any ideas for what you want to write next?
Yeah, I actually have two of them. One of them, because I'm a nature photographer as well, and so I'm thinking about putting a nature photography book of my own photography, like a tabletop book, a hardcover. And then I can also talk about my journeys and related to my pictures. And the other one is going to possibly be a coloring book. And I want to address more of the younger crowd, because and believe it or not, that is a huge avenue for creativity. And I mean, we all used to use crayons and draw and do all that. So I think the next two are the photography book and the coloring book. Yeah. I like to I'm trying to cover all the bases. So
Definitely look forward to seeing those.
Thank you, Rowan. Okay, anyone else? Before we wrap up here. I want to just comment that I really like your Munster display over your left shoulder.
Oh yes, that's
His Munster jacket and jersey. And
yeah. That's actually I was in football in my freshman year. I was a halfback. I was number 34. Yeah, and I was part of like all the special plays and that, because I was fast runner. So
cool. Well,
yeah.
it was fun to see that.
Yeah, I thought that'd be a nice little touch.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Could you all give Mr. Haizlip a round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
To leave work early. He left work early to visit with us.
Yes, of course, absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Yeah, we will share some of our pictures with you, and we just, we really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
Display, if you want to look through them while they're here, you can do that, guys. Okay.
And Kelly, before we go, if you guys want to write this down, I don't know if you can see it.
Where can they go to purchase them?
You can go on my website there. And
they're all pulling out their phones.
And you can also go to my YouTube channel and you can see me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Everybody's pulling out their phones.
Okay. Do you want me to keep it up or?
Well, I took it.
Okay.
Took a picture too. So
awesome. Yeah. If you want a signed copy too, you can go to my website and I'll be happy to sign it and then send it.
Okay.
And actually on that poem book on the very back is my high school picture and my wife's high school picture. And on the very front of the poem book is me. I was in Malibu, California in 1986, and that's a picture of me. And another little tidbit on the cloud book, that's a picture of my wife and I on the front of that book as well. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, thank you again. You have a great weekend. And
Well,
sunny there.
thank you.
We'll finally catch up to you here in Indiana. It's finally getting warm.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say thank you to everybody, and I wish you all very best. And if you have any questions or concerns about writing, or you need some more information, please let me know, and I'll be happy to assist.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you. Go Mustangs. Okay, we'll see you. Bye.
Great talk.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.